Hello, we're dealing with columns again. In the last video, we saw how we can make a column be visible on the final page, how we can apply color overlay to it, including opacity, and have it be visible, how we can use the design manager to add custom styles like rounded corners, borders, things like that. So that's a great way of making such a thing like a round cornered rect that we want to have the column so that as the contents of the column grows and shrinks, that the round cornered rect grows and shrinks with it, so we can have a visible container that our columns are. So it's very, very powerful. But sometimes we get a design idea in our head and we just can't let it go, and we really want that particular design idea to be the column itself, the container that grows and shrinks as the contents of the column grow and shrink. So for that, we need a Centercut column. For example, on this particular design, I have this blue monstrosity, and for whatever reason, I cannot get it out of my head, and I'm determined to have it be a container for my column that grows and shrinks as the contents of the column grow and shrink. So how do I go about doing that? Well, it's very easy, but the first stipulation is that when using Centercut columns, such as this one, the column itself cannot have any layer effects. So the first thing I'm going to do is get rid of the layer effects. Now to get rid of layer effects is very easy. We just select a layer and merge it with an empty one. And so I've selected this layer and an empty layer, and I'm just going to go ahead and merge these two layers together. Alright, so now that's done. There's no layer effects on this anymore. And I'm just going to call this my main column. So that's all done. Now the second piece of the information that SiteGrinder needs to know is how do we want this thing sliced up. And so for that, we're just going to make one new layer, which is we put the Centercut hint on. And the way we do this layer is this layer effectively divides the column into three pieces. And if I drop the opacity on this will maybe become a little bit more apparent. So this layer splits the column into three parts. There is the part of the column that's above this particular layer, and there is the part of the column that is below this particular layer, and there is the part of the column that is bound by this particular layer. So the part that's above and below will come out exactly as they are in Photoshop, and the part that's in the middle will be sampled 1 pixel tall but full column width sample, and that sample will be repeated over and over to give a consistent smooth thing as the column grows. So I've made my layer that tells SiteGrinder how how I want this thing to be split up, and I give it the same name as the column, and I give it the Centercut hint. The Centercut layer is obviously not going to be visible on the final page. It just determines this. One last thing about using Centercuts is there can be the children of the column cannot extend into the bottom part of the column, to that lower section. The children of the column can be in the top section and they can be in the middle section, but if they can't be in the lower section. If there are children in the lower section, then what's going to happen is they'll get the middle section will get extended to include them, which is going to cause the foot part of the column to scoot down. So when making Centercut columns, make sure that there's nothing, no other layers that are part of the column in this area down here. Alright, so let's go ahead and see how this works. So we'll just go ahead and open up SiteGrinder. No errors, no warnings, that's great. Let's go ahead and build this thing. Wait for it to build here. And almost done. There it is done. And I'm just going to close the design manager here just so we have a little bit more room. And now, I don't know if you can see that, but now you can see that this is a growable container, and as I move it, this container grows and shrinks. Now it appears, yeah, so there we go. So that is how you make a center cut column and use it in good health.